we figured it would be nice to actually show you the things that we did during the focus group discussion. As aforementioned, I think it's the other side. Yeah, it's sorry about that. So as we were doing the presentation, there was a comment on our focus group discussions being culminated by drawings depicting what the participants thought police brutality looks like. Hence, these are some of the drawings. For instance, this one was in Nairobi when we were doing an FGD discussion at Hekima University. And I'll just pick one and explain. For instance, this one. The participant here is a community leader. And he did mention that according to him, police brutality brought a sort of mental health crisis, especially with the police. He asked, think about it. How would a human being just stand and put a gun on someone's head and leave that space and still feel proud that they actually did their job? Not unless there's a mental health issue, there's a disconnect between the heart and the mind. Hence this description, the gun and the heart and the mind. On to the next one. We understand we barely have time, so we will just use one. On this one, I found, this was in Kisumu. I found it quite interesting because there were, some of the illustrations here were discussing lived experiences. And for instance, if you look at this, in memory of Baby Pendo, I'm sure you can remember the case that happened in after the 2017 election, the post-election violence, where we lost a 6-month-old baby as a result of police brutality when the police actually raided the Baby Pendo's family. So one of the participants actually drew this as a cry out for justice, because this case has been pending to date. It's not been covered yet. So this for him was one way of honoring Baby Pendo's dad, because he was actually in the meeting at that time. And secondly, a cry for justice to be able to have this case solved. They say justice delayed is justice denied. Exactly. Thank you so much. This was in Kisumu. And then lastly, this was also at Kariobangi in Nairobi. And of course, you can see the different drawings. I'm looking for one in particular, which I am, yes, the pin. This is a pin. So 2 participants actually got to talk about this symbol. One looked at this and saw a pin. Another looked at that symbol and saw a syringe. So technically, the police, it was alleged that the police use a syringe to inject white substance into a person, especially when they want to disappear someone, enforced disappearance. So they use a substance called peng in the slang version, and peng is actually used for pigs. So technically, you cannot, it becomes hard to be able to solve that case because you cannot actually say who actually injected who with this. So that's what they use. Another participant, once they saw this was drawn and while the guy was actually talking, he mentioned how he has experienced a situation with a pin, where the police actually used the pin during the investigation. So technically torture. Beyond the harassment, they used the pin as a form of torture, executing their torture. So thank you so much. These are some of the illustrations. You can actually see them way later behind. In total, we had approximately 51 pictures as a result. So thank you so much for being an amazing audience and for listening.
Wow.
And for my amazing, supportive humans.
Yeah, a round of applause for them.
Yeah, and just to now finish this, Please, sound guys, have the sound on. We're good? Nalilia, nalilia mama, nalilia, nalilia kaka, nalilia, nalilia dada, nalilia, nalilia baba. Hey yawa, hey yawa, 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 hey, hey yawa, hey yawa. When a young blood bleeds, when a young blood bleeds by the bullet in your silence, there goes a lineage cut off from you. When a young blood bleeds by the endless strokes in your silence, there goes a blue uniform walk scot-free. When a young blood bleeds till the trenches are filled, there goes a family torn in the quench that is wrath. There goes a ticking bomb awaiting to explode. Here comes a generation ready to fight for justice. In your silence, there goes a youth like you and I carry this heavy cross in loss. So when a young blood bleeds, when a young blood bleeds, let your souls be so disturbed that your sleep equates to the pain of a robbery. Let your hearts be so perturbed that the throbs are silenced by your rising. Let your cries be so loud until justice is actually found. Because when a young blood bleeds, when a young blood bleeds, sir, there goes a son to a mother who's asking herself why she's alive. There goes a son to a father who's asking himself, when can I just garner up a rally and fight for justice? There goes a son or a brother to a sibling who's ready to on a shoot to kill command. There goes a human to an acquaintance who's ready to fight for justice and that the perpetrator actually pays. There goes a citizen to a nation that's ready to fight for despotism. There goes a youth like you and I looking for a face in this place. Because when a young blood bleeds, let your souls be so disturbed so that you are as angry as should, as pained as should, take action as should. Only then shall there be justice in this flawed system. Only then shall death of those we've lost on police brutality be our resurrection. So, sing along with me. Say, nalilia, nalilia, mama. Nalilia, nalilia, mama. Nalilia, nalilia, baba. Nalilia, nalilia, baba. Nalilia, nalilia, kaka. Nalilia, nalilia, kaka. Yawa, yawa, Spontaneous, the poet. Thank you for listening.
Spontaneous. That was beautiful. And I know you all agree. It was beautiful. It was heartfelt.
Thank you.
It came in from your heart. We can feel the passion.
Thank you.
And honestly, as a Kenyan, you've taken me back to 2017. Well, in 2007, I was quite young. But it's taken me back. I remember Baby Pendo's story, and I was like, this is horrible. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. That was Peace Tree Network and Hekima University. Thank you for this opportunity.
The floor for some questions. Martha and Elias, please take the seat. For today, I would like us to take on a new approach. When we ask questions, I think it's important to introduce yourself. Let people know who you are, and of course, what organization you're representing. That would be really helpful, even in terms of connecting with each other. Okay? So, where do we start? We make it short?
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Flora Francis, representing Honored Organization from South Sudan. I really enjoyed the presentation, and the last presenter, it just reminded me about the home, and you know, South Sudan, with a lot of, thank you so much. My question is only one question, is about the activism in social media. I just want to understand in what extent that you use the do no harm approach in order to protect the activists in the social media, because in the context of South Sudan is sometimes challenging. How do you protect? Because in social media, many people will be following you, even not only police in our context, not only police, even national security, what. It will also backfire on the activist team on the ground. So I just want to know how successful is that happening in Kenya, and how can we copy from or take some key lesson from your experience here? Yeah, the use of social media. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. It was really, really insightful and very creative as well. My question is, you mentioned during the FGDs that some of the trauma that the people had was reawakened. So my question really is, how did you deal with the trauma of the participants of the FGD, and to a greater extent, the vicarious trauma or the secondary trauma that might have been gotten for the researchers?
Thank you very much for a super presentation. I learned 2 new words, floetry and artivism. Brilliant, lovely words. So my question concerns the findings from your quantitative survey, and the pie chart on effectiveness. You reported that 50% of the respondents had said that the effectiveness of activism versus police brutality was very effective. Now that's, the optimist in me thinks, great, that's a fantastic finding. But I suppose I just questioned the basis for this, and I wondered if in your qualitative data you had evidence, some examples to support that finding of the effectiveness of the activism against police brutality. Thank you. Sorry, my name is Gordon Crawford from Coventry University in the UK.
So I think you can take those ones first.
I have a follow-up question that follows up from the previous question as well. Yeah, just about the effectiveness as well. I was just wondering how that's measured, because I wasn't quite sure what you meant by effectiveness and how you've measured that in the survey. So yes, I'm Luke Abbs from the University of Winchester in the UK.
Okay, thank you so much for the questions. I think I'll take up the social media bit. Over the years, what we've been able to do in the landscape is to, normally before a tag gets to trend on Twitter, you'll get, especially when you talk about matters human rights violations, different organizations come together and actually have conversations online and push for this. I'll give you an example of what is going to be currently happening on the 27th of January, this Saturday, on matters femicide, because that's what's really going on right now. So what has happened is different CSOs, the civil society organizations, have come together and are using one hashtag, say hashtag total shutdown KE. And on top of the hashtags, there's also artists also getting involved. Normally that's how it actually happens. You'll find different artists also creating works that are also speaking to the same thing. And also now when you go to the ground as well, people are also speaking of the same issue. So it becomes very hard for the government to just assume that this is not a situation that's happening. That's how it's been possible, and on instances where there've been, of course, of threats to life, we have different bodies that work for assist human rights activists on that. For instance, Power 254 works with artists, so in case there's an issue in the process, especially in the protests, then Power 254 backs that up. When you're talking about human rights defenders, then we have the likes of Defend Defenders Coalition Kenya, that also comes into play. And of course, Amnesty also supports. So generally, it's been a collective effort right from the individuals to the organizations to the artists and now to the social media influencers who actually now push this conversation forward. Yes, you're welcome.
On trauma, reawakening trauma, as I said, we weren't very well prepared for that. But thank God we had also Rachel with us, who was coordinating the drawings, because that was one way of allowing the respondents to really express it from deep within. What I found difficult was how you leave respondents after that. There were so many needs that were raised. I remember this particular respondent who told me that if I don't receive any help, I'm going back to crime. He'd been arrested a number of times, in prison, out of prison. He was a gang leader, and he said, I've done bad things in my life and I don't want to go back there. But if I don't receive any help, I'm going to go back there. So I think it's just an awareness even for us as a researcher to think of that. We did talk to, because we hosted one of the Nairobi one, which I found much more traumatizing, in one of the social centers. And it was one of my former students who now runs it. So we talked of possibilities in future of having a kind of a program that can help people with trauma healing and the like. But he was also helping them out in getting income generating activities, but he said he's also limited with the kind of funds that he has. Number 3 is that some of those respondents were very fragile and very fluid, and so it's hard to have a program that will pin them down. They need instant help. Some are struggling with substance abuse, with addictions. So it's a much bigger program that is needed for their support, but it's really something that we kept as a big lesson learned.
Okay, just to add on to what both of them have said, for the social media also we have the activists. Sometimes they keep tabs on each other. So should anything happen, they inform each other, then they work as a safe space within themselves. For the trauma also, I had an opportunity to talk to, actually it's Baby Pendo's father after the FGD. We spent some time together just for him to talk to vent what he was feeling. So you just become a safe space for them. So sometimes you had to act those dual roles. On the effectiveness of the Artivism, what we found out was when we have, depending on what format of Artivism is being used. For example, let's say the murals. When we see them, or rather the respondents would see them, it will evoke emotions in them, and at some point, they start discussing how it affects their lives and how it impacts their community. And also, you'd find instances whereby, by having those thoughts in their mind, they engage the police. And they start having discussions, especially in places like Kibera. And from there, they develop other activities. Let's say we had an organization, they called it the Beating Drums. Based on the arts which were in Kibera, now they bring in the police to be part of their programs. And they were doing skits, road skits. And after doing the road skits, they invite the police to come and talk to them. So it becomes effective in that manner. Yes.
Maybe I could just add as well to the effectiveness. I'll just give examples. For instance, when she talked about Wajinga Nyinyi, one song led to a rally of so many other songs in different art forms. Wajinga Nyinyi started as a song by King Kaka. By the time that campaign was ending, we had over 20 parts of Wajinga Nyinyi from different artists from all over the country. And to add on that, there's actually a hashtag that was also trending online. And to add to that, to actually recognize that it was effective is because he was also summoned by the police. And there were actually human rights organizations that came to help him out. So already you can see that there's already pressure being put forward by people already engaging in these conversations, and also the artist himself finding support in the process. And now not only musicians are doing this, we also have the poets who are doing this. We basically have the visual artists, performing artists coming together to work towards a cause. Yeah.
So thank you. I'd like to close it there. Please allow me to release this team from the floor. Please take in your questions before over lunch, over tea, and we can keep the conversations ongoing. Also, maybe the team at the back can project our hashtags, so you can keep the conversations going online too, so that we really push it out there that we are doing this, and of course why we are doing this. Thank you so much.